I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise. Does anyone have any special intentions? Councilman Brannigan?
I would just hope that everyone would remember the Zahn family. Dee Dee Zahn, who was a neighbor of mine for 24 years, Ben's mom, is in the hospital, and she's just having a little health setback. So please remember Dee Dee, and I got my mom praying for her. She's usually got a straight shot to the guy upstairs. So.
Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you. Dr. Ken Ward, he's a State House chaplain. He passed away 3 days ago. Please know that this good man has been praying for the people of our great state for decades now. He is known to be a good man and a servant of God. I humbly ask that you keep Dr. Ward and his family in your prayers.
Thank you, Councilman. I'd like to recognize and ask Lolly Kujashav from the Vineyard Church. She's a 25-year resident of Kenner, and she's also the children's pastor at the Vineyard Church. Could you please lead us in the prayer?
Yes. Would you please pray with me? Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you, Lord, for life itself and for the measure of health we need to fulfill our callings. Thank you, Lord, for the ability to be involved in useful work that brings hope to so many in our city. I pray especially for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular, Lord, for this assembled council. I am asking you that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people in Kenner, a keen thirst for justice and rightness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work together in harmony even when there is honest disagreement. And Lord, I ask for personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them tonight. Please give an assurance of what would please you, Lord, and what would benefit those who live and work in our beautiful city. Thank you, Father. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Rapier, could you please lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Chairman, you have a quorum. In accordance with Council Resolution Number B14550, please be advised that all cellular telephones, pagers, beepers, and other devices of this nature must be deactivated or silenced throughout the council meeting. Do we have any resolutions, motions, or other items from the floor this evening? Seeing none. Under the consent agenda, we have item 1, approval of minutes, the regular council meeting of November 22nd, 2019. Item 2 is approval of alcoholic beverage permit applications. Item 2A is a resolution granting an alcoholic beverage permit to Friends of Rivertown on December 27, 2019 at Kenner Heritage Park, 303 Williams Boulevard, being property owned by the city of Kenner. Item 3 is approval of bingo and public gathering applications. We have none. Item 4 is correspondence, reports from the mayor, CAO, or department heads. Item 4A, at the request of the administration, a report from Mayor Zahn.
Mayor Zahn?
Thank you, Council President. We had another code sweep last week in District 2 with the help of Councilman Segura's office in the code department, obviously. We went into the 1900 block to 2200 blocks of Georgia, Kentucky, and Kansas. Violations were 28, 1 violations were 28, and court summons were 0. Seems that that area is getting a little more cleaned up with the help, like I said, of obviously our code enforcement department and also the help of Councilman Segura along with this administration. Tomorrow night, this Friday night, starts our Christmas Village in Rivertown. I want to thank Councilman Carroll for always assisting with that along with the rest of the council. to make Christmas Village available to all of our residents in the city of Kenner. This year, we will be focusing only on Rivertown for our Christmas display, not to mention the lights up and down Williams Boulevard and the banners. And I do want to thank Councilman Carroll, Councilman Segur, and Councilman Hayes for helping me put those lights up, not personally, y'all didn't get out there personally, but helping fund that along with the Public Works Department and Parkways Department and Jimmy Dennis to get that done. So thanks to the whole council, but you three council people making Williams Boulevard look good. And the reason I only call on those three is because that's the only districts that are affected by those lights. We did put banners up throughout Chateau and also parts of District 5. And if you haven't seen the new banners going into the Esplanade Mall, it looks really, really nice. And just to report, we are not finished with those gardens that Councilman Segur and Councilman Brannigan are working on with us as you go into the Esplanade Mall. Obviously, it's in District 2, but it affects District 4. So there have been some comments that those planners aren't done. We're reusing some bricks that we had in stock instead of buying new bricks. So it takes a special saw to cut those end pieces. Jimmy Dennis and I spoke today. I believe he has the saw, has the blade, whatever it is, and that will be done very shortly. When we started those gardens right before the storm, tropical storm, whatever it was, that blew through overnight and kind of caught everyone by a little surprise. So that project had to stop in order to make sure that our residents, we had the trees removed and different other things. But getting back to the Christmas Village, it opens up tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. It's open every Friday and Saturday night from 6 to 9 through the weekend after Christmas. We're a week behind because Thanksgiving was a week late. Tomorrow night at 6, we will open, do a tree lighting. Santa will arrive after that. Every Friday and Saturday night, like I said, 6 to 9, Santa will be there with some snow tomorrow night. And then December 27th and 28th, that's what it's open till. That's the dates. On the 27th, the last weekend, we will have the Top Cats perform from 7 to 9. So that's a little bit extra for everyone. And we look forward to seeing all of you all and the residents of the city of Kenner come out tomorrow night to help us kick off and light the tree lighting ceremony. If you bear with me, the mayor's comments are going to go into 3 different speakers. Sometimes this happens, but I do have Tom Schreiner who wants to talk about some new LEDs that are popping up throughout the city. Some people love them, some people don't. I get it. It's a safety issue, though, guys. Unfortunately, if you live on a main thoroughfare, it may brighten up your backyard, but we are changing over to LEDs. We're going to look, I talked to Councilman Brannigan earlier today, we'll look and see if we can maybe lower the light intensity on some of those areas in Chateau. Not promising anything, but it's something Councilman Brannigan and I will look into. If anybody else is having that complaint, please let me know. Tom Schreiner is going to talk a little bit about detail into that, and I have 2 other speakers that need to say a few words. Tom.
Yeah, no, probably a lot of people have noticed these lights, and just to go over quickly where the changes have been made on Veterans, from the Metairie line to Williams, on Chateau from Vintage to Joe Yenny, on Joe Yenny from Williams to Duncan Canal, and on Salentini from Vintage to Joe Yenny. The plan is to set money aside each year in the capital budget to make changes, more changes than the ones that I've said here. Yeah, we can look at lessening the intensity of these lights and go to a lower wattage. We can also use some shields on them. But right now, all we're trying to do is replace what's there without relocating lights or doing any real big amount of work. So, I mean, I think that's what the mayor had said, is that, yeah, that we're trying to look at, in some areas, lessen the intensity, and we're gonna be working on that.
Councilman Brannigan?
I got calls on 2 lights on Chateau Boulevard that the backyards are like the daytime. I told them, well, you can come by my council office and pick up a pair of sunglasses if you like. But the guy said, no, my wife won't do that. So I'll call you.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Tom, have you thought about putting them on clappers?
There was a suggestion for that. We'll look.
Thank you, Tom. I'm also going to address something that's been on social media, which that was a small issue, really, but then it led to the media. It's on our safe house in the city of Kenner. When we get people who reach out to us and say that they need to put individuals in the safe house, we are there to do it if it's vacant. Of course, it may not always be up to the standards that everyone would like, but it's better than living underneath the interstate. So Tamithia Shaw is going to come up and explain a few things about how the safe house has worked. And I use the word has because Facebook led to the media, so now it's been compromised. And the word safe house is because it's safe. It's no longer a safe house. Remember, everyone, it's used for homeless, but it's also used for battered women. We don't want to put battered women in a place that's no longer safe. So I want to, sarcastically thank Facebook leading to the media, which has now made our safe house unsafe. And Tamithia Shaw is here to explain that. So let's keep these things in mind for the future. And I would urge those behind the keyboard, again, to keep these things private, because this is what it leads to. I want to thank Tamithia Shaw, along with my administration, but Tamithia Shaw for handling this, because she probably handled a lot better than I would have handled it, because it really did tick me off. It's ridiculous that the safe house now has been compromised. But again, this is why when Tamithia was recommended to me, I realized the person, Lee Roussel, who recommended it to me for a reason, because she handles this the right way. So again, Ms. Shaw, I want to appreciate what you've done, but please, unleash it.
Thank you, Mayor. As you know, community development handles many projects in the community. One is to house those who are living in places that are not fit for human habitation, including to be outside. We got a call on Tuesday or Wednesday, of someone who needed to be housed immediately. The process to be housed, the City of New Orleans, the City of Kenner, and the Parish of Jefferson, all federal funds for homelessness go through Unity. So we must get referrals from Unity to house someone, because even though that safe house is in Kenner, it's not just for Kenner residents, because when you're homeless, you don't have an address. So we've had people who've been housed from Texas actually in that. Battered women from Texas actually have been housed in that, in the safe house. When we got the call, we had to immediately put in. Matter of fact, I ran into Councilman Wilmot in Walmart because it happened so fast. I thought there were linens in there. I had to go and buy linens to put in because it had to happen so quickly. And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure we get people off the street as quickly as possible. There was an instance where they said that, and then I went to the next day and to the food bank, and the food bank gave me food. It was reported that the food from the food bank was expired. That's not correct. What happened was the last person who was homeless and stayed there, they took the little bit they had and they put canned goods there as paying it forward for the next family that came in. So that's why those canned goods were there. So it was not from the food bank, so I just want to make sure that's clear. Unfortunately, because of the coverage of the safe house, we no longer can use it as a safe house. But something good has come out of it. We've been working with a nonprofit to do transitional housing. As you know, there was a bill passed last year in the legislature that allowed certain prisoners to be released. Well, the thing about that is they have to have someone to come. I've spoken to Chief Glazer, and he's on board because it's a public safety. He would rather know where they are. So we're going to be working with this nonprofit. We're going to use that facility, so it's not going to go that the facility is not going to be used. The facility will be used for that purpose, and we're also going to use while we renovate the Annie Washington Center, which has been on deck for a while. So the good things have come out of that. Also, we're going to be working with Unity. We're going to be giving them match money. On the next council meeting, you have some amendments to the action plan. They're going to actually allow us to give money, match money. They're going to be doing outreach actually in the city of Kenner. So they're going to be actively going out in the city of Kenner to see if there's anyone who is homeless, and they're going to make sure that they get housed. I've worked with Unity while in Jefferson Parish. We have a new shelter, Hotel Hope, that's allowing more people to be housed. And also, Catholic Charities just received $5 million from Amazon. So they're also working with Unity to make sure we rapidly rehouse people, because we don't want them in shelter, we want them in permanent housing. That's the point of that, when people fall on hard times. So I want to thank the mayor and the administration for allowing me to move forward. Like I said, because we don't want that house not to be used. We have so many needs. And I want to thank Chief Glazer for working with us also. Like I said, it's a public safety issue that we have to address anyway. So we're going to be using the house for that purpose now that everyone kind of knows where the house is. Are there any questions that you may have?
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Attorney Shaw. And I'm glad that towards the end of your statement, you said that we will be using it. Because as you know, as my position in the city of New Orleans with the Orleans Parish Sheriff Department, this is much bigger than the city of Kenner. I too work with offenders, male and female, who are released and need places to stay. So for someone that is from out of state, even it is a possibility that they can be used. And now locally, we have compromise, like you said, but there are other individuals that can benefit from it. And we will always work. I'm part with a group in New Orleans, the New Orleans Triage Team, with a number of different groups, 30 or 40, that support individuals just like that. So just to know that we are a part of that, anything that I can do to be able to bring information and give you information about supporting is good. And I think I've always known about the Annie Washington, but because of the circumstances, never really publicized it, because to do that would give away what we want to do. So that was my main reason. I would be asked and just kind of brush it off a little bit to ensure that, because not only for homelessness, but for battered women also, which is a big issue here, particularly in the city of New Orleans. So as we go forward for the city of Kenner to be able to offer it, the cooperation with the chief and other individuals, please keep me informed on it so we can do what's the best for the families in the greater New Orleans area.
And yes, it will be available to all of those, because like I said, we have to know, and like I said, it's best to know and work with those individuals, because we don't want, recidivism is a key, and we don't want them to go back. We want to make them, as returning citizens, to acclimate back into the system, and that's the better public safety that I spoke with Chief Glazer about.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Thank you, Ms. Shaw. Councilman Wilmot?
Yeah, Ms. Shaw, I just wanted to thank you. I know your background, and you've been a champion of these types of issues, although they're very delicate and complex too. So we have to follow certain protocols, and I know you understand those protocols. So from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. And if there's anything I can ever do to assist you in these types of things, let me know, please.
I
Thank
will.
you.
Thank you, Councilman Wilmot.
And Ms. Shaw, I want to thank you as well. And I just have a question. So is there a possibility, or, I mean, obviously, or a plan for maybe getting another property in the future to do that?
We're working with Unity to identify, because like I said, we just opened up a new shelter.
Okay.
And like I said, shelters, when someone's homeless, they're prioritizing, like Covenant House. Everyone knows that's for the youth.
Right.
So they're doing that. And a lot of the shelters, believe it or not, are not full because some people just
don't want-
refuse to help.
They have a lot of tents when I was driving here, they have a lot of tents underneath the overpasses.
Yes, because they've refused to help, but there are shelters available. So, like I said, but we didn't want this one because we can't use it for the battered women, but we don't want it to go unused. And this is a need that's impacting all the communities. Before I came here working, even in Jefferson, I've met with Sheriff LaPinto, and he identified this as, look, people are coming home. We have to have a place for them, because if not, it's become a public safety issue for the police officers that are on duty.
Yep, perfect. Thank you, I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
And then we also have Mr. Patrick Hamby here from Entergy. Councilwoman McKinney did reach out to me and Lee Russell over the holidays to bring up that there's a big discussion about changing over to the smart meters. So I do appreciate Councilwoman McKinney reaching out to us and alerting us that we should probably have Mr. Patrick Hamby come and speak. So I think he has a presentation if it's been hooked up. Has it? All right. Mr. Hamby with Entergy.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Patrick Hamby, Customer Service Manager for Jefferson Parish and Kenner, and I appreciate the opportunity to share some good news with you guys, and I'll open it up to questions at the end of the presentation as well. So we have a commitment to Louisiana to upgrade our system. We have to keep it up to date with what is out there in the industry so that we can adapt and help customers become more energy efficient and also save money for them and the company as well. We provide energy management tools through this program, which I'll get into later, that'll help customers reduce cost. So I mentioned advanced metering is a great tool to help customers save money. It's also a foundation of a smarter energy future. So we will have different things coming on the horizon after the meters are installed that'll be great opportunities for the customers going down the road. There could be time of use rates. They're not available yet, but this is building the foundation for that. And other grid modernization efforts that the customer may or may not see directly, but out in the field itself. So what are advanced meters? Advanced meters are basically the same exact thing that we have on the side of your house now, except for they use a dedicated, private, secure cell network, similar to, and even actual AT&T and Verizon in some cases, where we communicate the kilowatt hours that customers use without the need for a meter reader, and it goes directly back to our billing system. Just the same information that we get once a month, we're just getting it remotely. And in addition to that, it also will have the ability for customers to log into a special portal, which I'll get into here in a few minutes. It's called a customer engagement portal, which will open up a world and wealth of information for customers to look at as far as their electricity usage goes. So the key benefits, I hit on most of these, and I added some little call-outs on top of these that kind of hit home. But we will have faster outage identifications, and what that means is, kind of to boil it down in a nutshell, I like to use the example of a school, just a single school that loses power, let's say, over the weekend, and no one's there to notice, and it's not a mass outage. So our system currently today uses a SCADA system, which I believe you guys probably use on some of your utilities as well, but it's limited to a device kind of capability, which has, 100+ customers will be notified, but if it's a single case, we're not notified. So in that single school, when they get there Monday morning and they're getting ready for the students, like, oh, wow, the power's out, they call us, and that's the first time we're hearing about it. With these advanced meters, once the power goes out, it has a sensory last gasp, they call it, a little battery backup that'll push a signal out to our system. We know immediately when that one school is out. So if it goes out over the weekend, we'll have it back on, as quick as possible. And students will show up, the lights will be on, the heater, depending on what time of the year it is, or the AC, and everything will be good to go. Greater efficiency, I think that's what that says, excuse me. But that is basically the two-way communication where we will not have to have meter readers coming into your yard. We won't have to deal with locked gates. We won't have to deal with dogs or anything else. And it actually increases privacy, if you think about it, to the customer, because the only time we'll go out there is when something's wrong. We have to either replace the meter or do a repair or something like that. And the smarter tools we mentioned, the customer engagement portal I'll get to later, and the better communication, we can pinpoint specific groups of customers and communicate to them directly with their unique needs. It'll give us more control over our bill, and that's leading into the customer engagement portal, which is on the next slide. So today, how we read the meters, you basically, when you open up an account with us, you're using electricity from day one. You don't have to pay it till the meter reader comes, 30 days approximately later. They look and they get a monthly household energy usage. They go back and we put it into our system. The bill will come to you either snail mail or through electronic format, depending on how your preferences are set. But you're basically 45 days into what you've already used before you get an opportunity to look at it. And you're looking at, a 30-day chunk of usage. So you really can't determine what's been used and how and when. With the advanced meters, you'll have the opportunity to log on to your My Account online, and we have the customer engagement portal, and you can log on anytime, and you can see your energy usage real time, well, near real time. There's a 15-minute lag, and it's in 15-minute buckets. So you can see the graph where at 3 o'clock in the school year, when it's springtime, you might notice a big spike in the energy usage. Your kids come home, they crank down the AC, so you can kind of monitor that and say, hey, guys, I'm either going to get a smart thermostat and lock you out, or, don't touch the thermostat. So that's all about energy efficiency measures, and you can do budgeting there, too. You can say, notify me, Entergy, when I hit $100, and then you can keep an eye on it and try to budget that way and reduce usage as well. So we've done a lot of communications to our customers just to kind of keep them aware, because we are going to be touching every single meter, 30,800 here in Kenner, but this is also going across the whole state of Louisiana and Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas as well. So back in 2018, every single customer received a bill insert notifying of this program and when it was going to be set forth, real high level, 2019 to 2021. But then as it gets closer, we'll have, actually, before I get there, we've done stakeholder community outreach as well, similar meetings like this and town halls and different things like that, in addition to press releases and some paid advertisement as well. So here's what I was alluding to earlier. So the city of Kenner is in the process right now of having all the meters changed out. It started in November. So every customer should have received the 90-day frequently asked question letter from Philip May, our CEO, and it gives a good amount of information, and it has all the different numbers for people to call if they have questions, concerns, and every single thing they need to know. And then 2 weeks before we actually hit the property to make the physical change out, they'll get a similar, more high-level reminder, hey, we're going to be in your neighborhood on date X to change out your meter. In the installation day, so we will be on your property in a perfect scenario for roughly about 15 minutes. The meter changer will come up to your door, technician rather, and knock on your door, try to make contact to let you know what's going to happen, and they will go ahead and proceed with the change out. But if the customer has concerns or if they'd like to reschedule, we'll obviously honor that and schedule another time. And once the change out has either been completed or not, we will leave a door hanger to say it was either successful or unsuccessful, so the customer is aware of their new meter. And then about 48 hours after the meter change out, we send a survey to get a customer response. We've received a large amount of positive responses so far to date for the people who actually choose to participate in those surveys. So, and I will boil down a few different scenarios, of what we generally are experiencing, not only in Kenner, but kind of everywhere out in the field for these types of installations. Number one is the favorite installation scenario for me. It's a perfect installation. You have no worries. 15 minutes, maybe a 5-minute outage, but 15 minutes of us being present on the property. They get a new meter, we roll on. Scenario two, we walk up to the meter pan and we do a quick assessment to make sure there are no pre-existing safety concerns. However, if we do see one, our technicians are not allowed to touch it. They'll go make contact with the customer, knock on the door, or leave a door hanger, and let the customer know they have to hire a licensed electrician to make the needed repairs to get them up to code and go through the normal inspection process, and then we'll come back out and change that meter. Scenario three is the one that I do not like the best, but it does happen, and we thought about it before we rolled into this process. And I'll give you an example. In North Kenner, you have a lot of underground services, and you also have some services that have been in place for a decade plus, and we have that coupled with subsidence where the soil is settling in certain places, and it may cause some pressure that's pulling down on the conduit where the wires come up into the meter, and everything's fine because it hasn't been touched, but when we begin our work and we pull that meter out, it allows that kind of those wires and that connection to break. In some cases, not all, but if that does happen, we will actually, Entergy has on cue a licensed electrician to come and make the repairs at our cost. And we've worked with James Mohammed in the code department to streamline the permitting process in that place. So if that does happen, the outages are minimized and the customer is made happy as soon as possible. Out of that letter that I mentioned that went out 90 days ahead of time, I picked a couple of frequently asked questions just to highlight some that I'm sure that you guys either will get or have gotten already. How much is this meter going to cost me and how long is it going to be on my bill? And the answer to that is about $2.22. And it's not usage-based, it's just a flat fee for everybody. It doesn't matter if you're a business, a resident, It doesn't matter. It's a flat fee that's the same across the board. And it's going to fluctuate over time. In about 7 years, it'll hover up to about $3, and then it starts to taper off very, very quickly, down to $0 by 2035. And the last bullet is it largely has not affected anything that we do from a rate perspective at Entergy. We still have some of the lowest rates in the country. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
Councilman Segura.
Thank you, Council President. Well, Patrick, thank you for this presentation, and even though some of the questions I were going to ask have slightly been covered, I just want to sort of go back and readdress them. So certainly the public, as you said, who did your surveys, are aware of what this means. And the first and foremost was, yeah, the monthly fee for having the new meter seemed to be a shock to some people because they just said, well, hey, it's your property, you're changing it out, why do I need to pay for it? So just saying that's probably their feeling. So now with your presentation, you're saying, okay, it'll start off with a $2.20-something cents a month, ramp up to maybe $3 somewhere, and then taper down quickly before 2035 and go away.
That's right.
That's predominantly to pay for the cost of the meter and its installation?
That is 100% to pay for not only the installation, but the meter itself and the investments that we put forth.
Software,
purchase
the,
everything, yes,
okay,
maintain.
all right. Another concern that I've seen is the concern that with the meter being so smart, there's a potential that Entergy will start assessing peak usage fees when it senses somebody is now using more power than normal. Is that something that's on the horizon?
No, the opposite is what we've considered and we've piloted in different places. It's a peak time rebate, and it's an optional program. If somebody wants to opt in, they choose to, and this doesn't exist yet. This is just a potential rate structure, and it's in other places around the country, but not here. And we would have to file for and get approval from the Louisiana Public Service Commission.
But when you say a rebate
It would
on
be
a
a
peak
rebate.
usage, how does that work?
So when the summertime peaks hit, roughly around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if you opted in for the peak time rebate, then if you went and lowered your energy usage to a certain level, we would give you a credit in addition to the savings, that you're already getting from lowering.
Okay, so actually, what I'm hearing then is for the public to understand that if what this happens, they can actually save money by reducing their power during those peak periods so that you can better service the people who are more in need of the power at that time.
That is correct.
Okay. And you mentioned about the school outage and knowing and getting on it. What about to the local house? When their meter goes off, it sends the same signal, so you now know immediately that there's an outage, if not just at that house, but certainly in the area around it if others have the same outage?
That is correct. So if you're in Disney World with your grandchildren and your lights go out, you're the only one, we will know before you know. Well, you'll actually know too because you'll get a text about it, but we will know, we'll be able to roll a truck on that as well.
Okay, because I know just in a lot of times, the outages are, wind blew a branch and it knocked a specific transformer out, and it may feed 4 or 5 houses or maybe more.
Yeah.
And it just takes, like you said, a truck to come out there, reset that breaker, and they're back. So that can hopefully speed up that process.
That is correct.
Okay, good. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Segura. Councilman Wilmot.
Yeah, I just had a few questions on the procedure. You indicated it was like 2 weeks, the resident will get a notice, is that correct? Around 2 weeks?
They'll get a 90-day notice at first, which is the letter with the frequently asked questions, and then about 2 weeks ahead of the actual installation, they'll receive another notification.
Okay, then they can expect a knock on the door first before any work is commenced?
That's correct. On the installation day, they will knock on the door and attempt to make contact, yes.
Okay, so the resident can expect the electricity to be off for how long? When is it?
In the perfect scenario, about 5 minutes. But if there's damages that have to be repaired while we're doing the work, until those repairs are made, it just differs depending on the severity.
Then after the work is completed, then a door hanger is going to be placed on the door to let them know the success of the project?
That's correct.
Okay, so the resident should get adequate notice before this is done, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure that they're aware and y'all are following those protocols.
Yep. That was our plan, so there's no surprises, no accidents, no issues, and it's as smooth as possible. Yes,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you.
Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Council Chair. Thank you, Patrick, for your presentation and always taking my calls and texts when I aggravate you about issues.
Happy to do so.
And my understanding also is that if someone wants to opt out of this and not have it, that is allowable or acceptable as well. Is that correct?
That is true. So I did not have that as a highlight, but in that letter, one of the frequently asked questions is, what if I do not want the advanced meter? There's a fee associated with that because we will have to maintain a smaller group of meter readers to physically, do the old school process where we'll have to access and put our eyes on it and go and do the monthly reads, and that charge is $14.35 a month. And again, that was one that we filed with the Public Service Commission and they authorized.
Thank you. My last comment is, there have been so many comments in the last few months about the water bills in Jefferson Parish and such, and I've received calls even in the last few days where people have asked for rereadings of the meter and have been told it's accurate, and the spouse or one of the homeowners goes out and is actually opening the water meter and it's still covered with mud and it's still covered with grass, and they're questioning that. It just seems to me that this is going to be much more accurate and beneficial for the homeowner by this being reported directly to you all electronically, correct?
For sure. It reduces or it eliminates the human error aspect where either for whatever reason the read doesn't get read properly or it is missed altogether. So, and I think it was my understanding that the water meters, they're exploring the same technology as well, or a similar technology.
Well, as soon as they realize they could charge more, they'll do it.
There you go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Council Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Brennan. Councilman Carroll.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to see you again, Mr. Patrick. I have received my meter, and what percentage of the city of Kenner have been completed? Did you start at the river, or did you start at the lake, or where are we right now in installation of the meters?
We didn't start in a geographical region. It's kind of spread around by meter reading route. That was on a slide, and I couldn't see. My glasses don't work quite as well, and I apologize for that. I should have hit on it. We began installing meters in November, and we are over 17,000 that are installed out of a total of 30,800 that are to be installed, and we hope to get the rest on by March.
By March, okay. And, I missed the email or missed the notice about if I chose to opt out of it. I didn't get it. So when I came home, I had a tag in my door showing that it was changed for people who would like to opt out. Have they been notified before to say, yes, I would not want to have it? Or once it gets installed, then they have to call you guys to let you know that we would not want to have this?
Gotcha. So it's one of the frequently asked questions in the 90-day letter that comes from Philip May. So that's the first that they'll hear about it. And then at any point where there's a concern, they can call, any customer can call 1-800-ENTERGY, and the operators are aware of the process as well. And they'll route them to the appropriate desk to get that option put on.
Could you forward me that information, maybe in a flyer or that telephone number, so we can share that? And you also mentioned on the telescreen the 2 or 3 options that could have happened with the installation, one being pre-existing safety issues. Based on what you guys have started, are there any issues that are being more prominent than others? Or is pretty much most of it has been going in successfully, or?
Yes, most of it has been going very successfully, as is kind of evidenced by the over 17,000 that we've gotten in here, within a month. So we are running into a few issues, and when I say a few, I mean literally a handful of pre-existing cases where there's safety issues, and that has to be brought back up to code. It's for the safety of our employees, the customers, everything in the house, and so on and so forth. But it has not been a large number at all.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Councilman Brannigan.
Patrick, I just want to thank you for being so accessible to us. I know that I've texted you at some pretty weird hours, and you've gotten things done and responded immediately. And also, the workers, when we had that little storm come through, we had one branch, pretty big branch, fall on a power line. That's what knocked out about 160 houses in Chateau Lakefront. And I went and found one of the trucks, brought them down there. The guy knocked the wire off and had them up and running within 30 minutes. And it would have been quicker, but he didn't have the fuse on the truck that he needed. And he said, "I'll be back in 30 minutes." I said, don't, make sure you're back in 30 minutes. These people want the juice on.
Oh, yeah.
The Saints were coming on in about an hour, so.
That's right.
I just want to thank you for being so accessible to us and your crews that have helped me out immediately.
Well, thank you. And teamwork is what's key. I think we have a great relationship with the city of Kenner, the council, the mayor, and the residents, and that's what's key is teamwork. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilman Brennan. Councilman Segura?
I'm sorry, Madam President. I just wanted to follow up on Councilman Wilmot's question and state that, as Councilman Carroll said, yeah, mine has been replaced also, and the process that you referred to did work. I mean, I did get my notices, maybe not quite as clear as to how to opt out, but it was mentioned. And then on the day that it was installed through my surveillance cameras, I could see the technician at my door. I wasn't home, but he stayed there and rang the doorbell, obviously, several times to ensure if I was there or not to come to the door before he went out. And then once he took it off, then my generator kicked in, so I know how long it took him to do it. So yes, it did only take a short period of time.
Well, that's perfect. That's the scenario one that I prefer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, and Patrick, I apologize. I wanted to thank you for coming out here and doing this presentation. I think it's really important. I got my notice, which is what prompted me to contact the mayor for you to come, and I think that it's a great thing. I had got my meter earlier this week. I had new issues, and I'm looking forward to being able to track my usage on my phone. So, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I believe if anyone from the community would like to speak and ask any questions, you can come up. You have 3 minutes or less.
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. Thank you, Councilwoman McKinney. A couple of things I'd like to add. First, I want to talk about the presentation Tamitha Shaw came up here with. This was on the news the other night about an elderly couple that was given temporary housing that was living in the parking lot of a Burger King.
Mr. Morella, if you could speak about just the energy presentation, and then in your 3 minutes after the meeting, you can speak about.
Oh, well, okay, that's fine. Okay, I want to add this to the energy presentation. He said $14.35 a month. Well, they told me 15. We're not going to quibble over 65 cents, but it's up to what I was told, $96 or more. Okay, that's what I was told by energy representative. And I also asked the question, you're going to eliminate meter readers because you're going to be able to read this from the office. You're going to be able to read these meters with these digital meters. I said, what becomes of the meter readers? They said, well, Mr. Morella, we're going to move them to other positions. I said, that's okay. So I just wanted to add that to it.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
But I did want to say something about what Tamitha Shaw was talking about, but if I got to wait to the end, well, I'll wait to the end. That's no problem.
Yes, thank you,
3 more
Mr.
minutes.
Morella.
Thank you, ma'am.
Councilman Brannigan, sorry.
Patrick, is there a reason why someone would want to decline the new meter? I mean, to me, it doesn't make sense.
I personally am not aware of why somebody
Okay.
would want to unless they're just comfortable with the way things have been and aren't, open to any change, maybe. I'm not 100% sure.
It just doesn't make sense why someone would turn down the new meter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Brannigan. Mayor Zahn, are you,
I'm finished.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President, that
I'm
concludes.
sorry, Councilman Segura would like to speak again.
Real quick, to answer Councilman Brannigan's question, there is a generation that, just like in the flip phone days, didn't want to go to a smartphone, so they just a little cautious about going to a smart meter. that generation.
So they want the unsmart meter. Councilman Brannigan.
I'm glad, I'm glad you, Mike, I'm glad you still have your flip phone.
Yes, ma'am. That will conclude the consent agenda.
Motion by Councilmember Wilmot, seconded by Councilmember McKinney. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Under the public appearance agenda, we have item 9, public hearings for final passage. Item 9A is a public hearing regarding summary ordinance number 12,635, an ordinance approving a general advertising sign in an HI zoning district for Maymar Engineers and Contractors LLC, doing business as Evergreen Media on Lot 35A, Square 90, Bainbridge Office and Industrial Park. Madam Chairman, we've received a request from the property owner to remove this item from the agenda this evening. I have a motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Segura, to remove this item from the agenda. Any discussion on removal? Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10 is opening of bids. We have none. Item 11 is reclassification of zoning for final passage. We have none. Item 12 is other ordinances for final passage. We have none. Item 13 is resolutions and motions by council members. Item 13A is a resolution waiving the prohibition against a jury trial as provided for in LARS 13:5105.
Motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brennan to approve. Council members, please vote. Oh, Councilmember Segura wanted to speak. I apologize.
That's okay.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to ask between the city attorney to give an explanation as to what this involves.
State law provides that governmental entities are not allowed to be sued in a jury trial unless the governmental entity waives that right. At one point in time, it was thought that it could be done on a case-by-case basis, but the Supreme Court is said it's an all or nothing, so either the governmental entity has judge-only trials or the governmental entity allows for jury trials. It is the recommendation of the lawyers that represent, not only from the city attorney's office, but also outside lawyers that represent the city in litigation, that we feel that it would behoove the city to allow for jury trials.
Thank you. And I know some of these cases are the police, so the police chief you're certainly in favor of this too, I presume? Yes. Thank you. All right, well then, yes, I know we had this come up before and we had deferred it, so I hope the questions have been now satisfied and answered, and we can move on this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Segura. Councilman Wilmot has a question as well.
Councilman Segura asked the questions that I was interested in, and they've been answered, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0. Item 13B is a resolution electing a Kenner City Council President and Vice President effective January 1st, 2020.
Motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Segura to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 13C is a resolution of the Kenner Consolidated Surge District, State of Louisiana, retaining bond counsel in connection with the substitution of a reserve fund policy in lieu of a cash reserve and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Motion by Councilmember Brannigan, seconded by Councilmember Hayes to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 14 is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. Item 15 is acceptance of contracts and similar matters approved by the mayor. Item 15A is summary ordinance number 12,631, an ordinance accepting the lowest responsive bid received from Ellison Builders LLC for improvements to the Council on Aging building in accordance with bid number 19-6510 and an amount not to exceed $241,500.
Councilmember Carroll.
Thank you, Madam President. And as many of us
I have
know
a
that
motion by
the,
Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember Hayes. I'm sorry, Councilman Carroll, go ahead,
That's okay.
please.
No, that's okay. As most of us know, the Council of Aging building is a very important building to the city of Kenner and a lot to the people that live in District 1. The repair for that building is long overdue. I'd like to thank the administration and the mayor for having our conversations about upgrading the building for the people that use it on a day-to-day basis and for the people that rent it for repasses, for birthday parties, for graduation. So I'm not sure exactly the completion date unless Ms. Attorney Shaw would like to come up and give a little more detail. But it's good to know that this is happening, and we look forward to the improvements to the building. Attorney Shaw, thank you.
We have a projected completion date of 75 days from the date the contract is signed, but we've told the builder we're anticipating April 30th of 2020 being the completion.
And as far as the activities going on now, is it being moved other places, or will they have to be stopped, or how is that going to work?
The builder has told us that we can continue to use the building except for 1 week because there's going to be demolition. And because of demolition, we will have to move for that 1 week.
Have we identified where?
They haven't given us that 1 week that they'll need us to
Okay.
move. But we've already spoken to Heidi with Heritage Hall. We're going to move down there for the week.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Seeing no one else would like to speak, council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15B is summary ordinance number 12,632. An ordinance accepting the lowest responsibility received from Casco Industries Incorporated to purchase 2 Tempest battery positive pressure fans in the amount of $7,390 in accordance with bid number 19-2716 for the Kenner Fire Department.
Motion by Councilmember Brennan, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15C is summary ordinance number 12,633. An ordinance accepting the responsive bid received from Mako Products Incorporated to provide karate uniforms and equipment on an as-needed basis in accordance with letter bid number 19-1589 and an amount not to exceed $25,000 annually for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
Motion by Councilmember Kinney, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 15D is summary ordinance number 12,634. An ordinance amending ordinance number 11,646 adopted October 25, 2019 to correct erroneous agreement amount to reflect $30,000 annually for DRN's Incorporation to supply uniforms citywide.
Motion by Councilmember Hayes, seconded by Councilmember Wilmot to approve. Council members, please vote.
Motion passes 7-0. Item 16 is ordinances and resolutions in summary for first reading. Item 16A is an ordinance accepting the proposal from Lesson Chevrolet, an authorized dealer for parts and labor, to repair the fuel injector and pressure lines on unit number 2026 at an amount of $9,840.90 for the Department of Public Works. Item 16B is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of 2 John Deere Gator TS utility vehicles from John Deere Company in the amount of $12,562.20, utilizing state contract number 4400017193 for the Department of Parks and Recreation. Item 16C is an ordinance authorizing a public hearing to approve the proposed amendments to fiscal year 2019 annual action plan of the City of Kenner Community Development Block Grant for the Department of Community Development. Item 16D is an ordinance amending Chapter 15, Section 56A of the Kenner Code of Ordinances to establish no parking zone on 42nd Street and provide for related matters. Item 16E is the first supplement to the first supplemental bond ordinance, which authorized the issuance of $16 million of sewer revenue bonds, Series 2011 of the Kenner Consolidated Sewerage District, State of Louisiana, in accordance with the terms of a general bond ordinance, authorizing the substitution of a reserve fund policy in lieu of a cash reserve and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Item 16F is an ordinance authorizing the use of state contract number 15052 with Thornton Musso and Bellaman Incorporated for the purchase of water treatment chemicals for a cost not to exceed $110,000. Item 17 is reports from the council and/or special committees. Seeing none. Item 18 is new business. We have none. Item 19 is unfinished business and motions to reconsider or remove from a tabled position. We have none. Item 20 is persons wishing to address the council on special subject matters.
Yes, we have, the first person who signed up is Apostle Tony Wesley. Oh, is it Tommy or Tony? I'm sorry. Tony, okay. Okay. Oh, I had to go, okay. What? And then Ina Wesley, his wife, oh, they also, okay. Louis DeCastro. If you can approach, say your name and your address, please. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Louis Phil DeCastro. I reside 2246 Delaware Avenue, Kenner, Louisiana. I want to let you know I built a house in my family built a house in the 2200 block of Delaware in 1959. I've either resided or owned property since 1959 in the city of Kenner. If I may, I'd like to present to y'all each a copy of what I'd like to talk about. This is in reference to the closure of a servitude alley located in the 2200 block bounded by Delaware and Florida, 22nd Street and 23rd Street. As you can see in photo number 1, the servitude alley on my end holds water. It cost me over $2,000 to have dirt hauled and spread in the servitude alley. The reason that being, I couldn't maintain the cutting of the grass. The servitude alley was holding about 6 inches of water. The sand water also has the potential of breeding mosquitoes. In photo number 2, it shows standing water in the street on 23rd Street. My neighbor and I dug a trench toward the drain on Delaware Avenue to alleviate the problem. Another problem was when the servitude alley was being kept by the owners, one of the neighbors had issues with vehicles parked behind their fence, possibly having sexual encounters or the use of drugs. I was told by a member of the council the city has no interest to maintain a servitude alley because of the cost. I had lived in a house I built for nearly 2 years, and as you can see in photos number 3, 4, and 5, there's no way anyone uses the servitude alley from 22nd Street to 23rd Street. Without the city of Kenner maintaining a servitude alley, it becomes a hazard for mice, rats, cats, and snakes. The other photos, number 6 through 16, show that the residents, most of the residents, park their vehicles in front of their homes, with the exception of one person. I believe the servitude alley was originally meant for the usage of the utility companies. Attached are letters from the utility companies stating they have no intention of ever using the servitude alley and have no objection of the closure of the servitude alley. These can be shown on photos number 17, 18, whereas I notified each utility company and got a response from each one of them stating that they had no use for the servitude alley. However, there are very few persons who are in objection to the closure. One being he may want to build a swimming pool down the road, another not being able to get to a riding lawnmower to the back of their house, and one person who actually uses the alley to park his vehicle in the rear of the house. The person who parks the vehicle is renting the property and is not the owner. and the owner does not reside there. I understand this creates a problem, but in all consideration, as I stated before, the Servitude Alley is not being used for its original purpose for the utility companies and is not being used as a main thoroughfare from 22nd to 23rd Street. The person who parks his
Mr.
vehicle
Is-
uses,
Excuse-
enters, and exits through 22nd Street.
We had 3 minutes, and they're up. Councilman Segura?
As you can tell from this presentation, and I'm somewhat involved, but if I may like to see if I could get a second and move to suspend our rules to allow him to continue. Well, yeah, I mean, give him another 3 minutes and let him finish up.
Second, yeah, a second. I've seen,
I have a motion by Councilmember Segura, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan, to allow the citizen to speak for an additional 3 minutes. Council members, please vote. Motion passes 7-0.
Sorry for taking so long. At first, I was informed that all I had to do was make a list informing the owners of my request to have the servitude alley revoked. I needed their name, signature, address, lot numbers. I went to each neighbor with this petition, and the majority were in favor of the closure. Not everyone signed, as you can see on page number 24. I took the petition to the planning division and was told I had to notify each person in the neighborhood about a meeting to be held in regards to this closure. I personally delivered the attached letter to each person on February 22nd, notifying them of a meeting to be held on February 29th. Attached is a list of the people in attendance, photos number 25 and 26. I was later informed this was not good enough due to some of the owners were not properly notified. I had to go through the City of Kenner Planning Division. I went to the City of Kenner Planning Division on 4/29/2019 and issued a check to the City of Kenner in which they cashed on 5/7/2019. I believe this check was for them to send out certified letters, photo number 28. Since the servitude alley was not being used by anyone for the past year I lived there, I attempted to build a fence with a 15-foot rolling gate across the servitude alley, but was stopped by the City of Kenner Code Enforcement, stating I needed a permit. I was told by a lady representing the City of Kenner permits I could not pour footing across the servitude alley. I didn't realize about the footing, but was only attempting to make it easier for anyone wanting to use the alley to open the gate until a decision was made by the City of Kenner. I feel like a dog chasing his tail because nothing has occurred since 2018, and appreciate you taking this under advisement and give me advice as to what I have to do. If not for the closure of the alley, at least allow me to build a 15-foot rolling gate across the servitude in case anyone needs its usage in the future, and maintain such gate at my cost. I really utilize my backyard, and this fence would help resolve the eyesore of looking across the canal. I want to thank the members of the City Council for giving me the opportunity to present this request.
thank you. Any comments? Okay, thank you, have a good day. Miss Barbara Sinet? Ma'am, you have 3 minutes. If you can state your name and your address, please.
Barbara Soniot, 315 Pollock Street, Kenner. Good evening. As we approach the end of calendar year 2019, I would like to draw attention to several concerns and issues affecting South Kenner residents that have been presented to various city officials, departments, and this council. And these are issues that have not been adequately addressed. I respectfully request that full and adequate attention be given to these matters, preferably during the first quarter of the year 2020. First, I'll summarize the issues and then hopefully have enough time to elaborate. The three issues I want to bring attention to: first, the Oak Kenner Civic Association's request for Neighborhood Early Notification Conference. It's a letter to the City of Kenner Planning Department dated August 28, 2019. We want to be notified of zoning changes and other developments and plans for our community. Secondly, Old Kenner Drainage System Improvement, letter dated May 29, 2019 to Mayor Zahn. We want to know what resources and plans have been targeted to prevent flooding and drainage problems in our community, particularly in light of the fact that these problems are likely to increase with new property developments. Attention and preventing further exacerbation of draining problems must be an integral part of new development planning in South Kenner. And thirdly, the maintenance and programming for educational and recreational facilities in South Kenner. We need more, not fewer, resources in South Kenner. Our citizens need better access to after-school and summer educational programs, adult educational opportunities, access to employment and economic development opportunities. I'll talk about each of these. Currently, major property development is taking place on Reverend Richard Wilson Drive between Decatur and Farrell Street. In accordance with the Unified Development Code, Article 6, Section 6.01C, the Old Kenner Community Association requested early neighborhood notice meetings prior to the submittal and approval of applications for rezoning, property, planned unit development, and conditional use. To date, we have received no information about what's happening. There are all sorts of rumors about what development is occurring there. We, as a community association, requested, but have not received information on that. The Old Kenner drainage system improvement. A number of areas in South Kenner currently experience serious flooding and drainage problems. In order for the drainage system to operate efficiently, grass cutting, spraying, trash removal, and scooping of the ditches and canals are essential. We are requesting a maintenance log for work that was done in 2019 and a maintenance schedule for work to be performed on ditches and canals in the year 2020. Additionally, we're requesting a status report on the compromised Felix Street and draining project that was funded through the community development grants, state and city funds. That project was budgeted at $74,551, and it was included in the 2014-2015 budget. Rivertown Drainage Improvement Construction Match, $370,000, was in the 2016-2017 budget. We'd like to know how much money from the federal monies passing through the state flood control phase 2, $29,893 in 2016 and $708,870 for the fiscal year that ended June 30, 2017, was spent on improving flood conditions in South Kenner. In addition,
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Okay. I'll second.
Thank you. In addition to the compromised
we need
Felix
to vote.
Street,
Okay.
other areas of concern include Plantation Drive, Kenner Avenue, and Hanson Place. Last but certainly not least, we are concerned about the dwindling of educational and recreational services in South Kenner. It is critical that facilities are upgraded and maintained, and this includes the Buddy Lawson Gym, a facility of historical significance in our community. A May 1st, 2019 communication from the mayor's office noticed that the proposed 2019-2020 budget, capital budget, $3.9 million, included funds for critically needed upgrades to city recreational facilities. How much of these funds have been allocated to upgrading and maintaining the Buddy Lawson Gym, Susan Park, Lincoln Manor Gym? It's essential that our kids have access to after-school and summer educational enrichment and recreational activities. It is essential that adults in our community have access to services that will improve employability. It is critical that residents of South Kenner have equal access to economic development opportunity. Thank you for listening, and we look forward to your positive response to our request for information, inclusion, and action. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Next is Miss I don't want to mispronounce, Miss Josiah Clay? And I apologize if I mispronounced it. You have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jakia Clay, and I reside at 707 Clay Street, Kenner, Louisiana, 70062. I am the granddaughter of the late Reverend Dr. Arthur Paul Clay Sr. of Kenner, Louisiana. He was an activist for the community whom he loved dearly. I stand before you to address several concerns with our parks in the neighborhood. The first park is A.P. Clay Park. There were several letters sent out, and some of the issues at the A.P. Clay Park are there are drains standing water near the basketball court, the benches need to be replaced, and there needs to be a paint job on both the restrooms and the building. The next park is the Betsy Hammond Park. There is a need for a handicap accessible water fountain, and the Betsy Hammond Park sign needs to be installed and replaced. The third park is Bertha Lee Jackson Park. There needs to be a removal of old barbecue pits, replace broken swings, and install a new drug-free zone sign. Lastly is the Rosemary Minor Park. There is also a need for a handicap accessible water fountain as well as a Rose Minor Park sign replaced and installed. Lastly, as a community, we are aware that Head Start is moving from the A.P. Clay Center, so in turn as a community, we would like to see a resource center implemented for the community, where there can be computer classes for the elderly and tutoring programs for the youth in the community. We would like the building to stand with the proper renovations. We want to keep our kids encouraged in South Kenner, especially because there aren't enough activities for the kids in South Kenner. I would like to thank you for your time and hope that these renovations be taken care of.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your time. Mr. Morella?
Al Morella, 4260 East Loyola Drive, 5th District, 47 years. I want to extend my prayers to the mayor and his family, and keep his mother in my prayers for a speedy recovery. Okay? I also want to thank Ms. Celia Molina. I see Richard Brown in the audience here, who was part of that interview on Channel 4 News the other night, for taking those 2 senior citizens off the street that was living in the parking lot at the Burger King on Roosevelt and giving them temporary housing. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Demetrius Shaw. I think that these citizens should be recognized by the city for their fine humanitarian effort. Okay? Now, I want to talk about a discussion at the last meeting between the mayor and I concerning the Kenner Housing Authority. Okay? The case can be made that it's not a city agency because it does not receive any funding from the city of Kenner. They're funded with federal tax dollars through HUD. Okay? Second, they're governed by state and federal law. But a case can also be made that they are a city agency, even though they're not listed as one. Okay? Last year, the mayor removed the entire board. And the first order of business of the new board was to fire the executive director who runs that agency. Now, that was the appropriate action in my opinion in both cases. Okay? Now, the charter, 8.03.01 states that anybody on that board that wants to run for public office for the city of Kenner, they have to resign. And it's in the same section as dual office holders. So now it's not listed as a city agency. But when we have that type of authority, administrative authority, okay, I consider it a city agency, even though it's not listed as one. Okay, and one of the comments the mayor did make at the last meeting was that he cautioned the council not to get involved. Well, there's a difference between getting involved and staying informed. And I'm going to tell you why this council should be informed. First of all, the previous administration used to send a representative from the city to those meetings. When I sat on that board, I requested Chief Caraway, then police chief, to send a detective to that table to keep informed as to what was going on with that agency. Because if we're not informed, this is why we should always stay informed. Though that board and that executive director, which is directly put there by the city of Kenner, if the programs that they oversee is not administered correctly, it can have a negative impact on every neighborhood in this city. That's why this body, both bodies, the administrative branch and the legislative branch, should be kept informed. Anybody got any comments, any questions?
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you, Mr. Morella.
One day, Ms. McKinney, you might be telling me that, if you're still up there.
Council Chairman? Council Chairman?
Yes.
If I would just like to correct something Mr. Morella said. The director is appointed by the board. The mayor nor the city have anything to do other than appointing the board members when it comes to the appointing of the director for the Housing Authority. And the Housing Authority is not, under any circumstances, a city department.
Thank you, Mr. Rapier. Mr. Teft.
My name is Greg Taft. I live at 3720 West Loyola Drive in Kenner. I just want to address an issue that I probably addressed about maybe a year ago. While I missed the meeting, the last meeting, I did watch it. And yes, I have to say the city attorney, he mowed us down when we brought it up about, I think it was about a year ago, that it was not illegal. The problem is, though, is it really true transparency? When you leave something out with just a title, it's not really transparent. We do have supplemental agendas that come up. We had one for this meeting, at which time, to me, the legislation could be complete. So all I'm saying is, while it's legal, doesn't always mean legal is the right way or the right thing. The extra step to have transparency puts the citizens at ease because now they're aware of it, and you've let them know what's going on. And I'm going to stop at that. The other thing I want to bring up, and I don't know if I can get these answered or not, but regarding the collection of the garbage fee. As I look at it, right now the garbage fee, I believe, is on the tax form, the property tax form. Is that not correct? Huh? No? What is, when they say garbage, on my tax form it says garbage and it's got $1. Property tax. On my property tax bill it says garbage and it's got a fee.
You have a garbage millage, and that's what is on.
Oh, that's what it is, a
That's
millage?
what's on your tax
Different?
bill, and that's different than the garbage fee, which is on your water bill.
Gotcha. All right. Here's what I'd like y'all to consider when you, because it's not up for legislation now, but some of the questions that I have regarding the bill is, we're going to actual cost instead of having a set dollar amount, which I can appreciate that. The problem I have is, it also says billed monthly. I take it that means on the water bill. Because on my water bill, I didn't have anything about garbage. because I looked. I didn't have a garbage fee on my water bill. The other thing I have is how to apply for the senior discount, because I don't see anything where there's a avenue for seniors like myself to apply for a discount, because I think that should be available. So that's something else to look at when you're considering the bill. And then the other thing that I'd like to see considered, what about those citizens that do not want to recycle? Why should they have to pay a recycling fee? Because they've made it where you're managing your recycling material so much, I'm not going to work to manage that when I can just throw it in a regular trash can and move on.
Thank you,
And I
Mr.
think a lot of people feel that way.
Thank you, Mr. Teff.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. I can't quite read the next name. I think it's Earl Smith. Okay. Mr. Smith is a doctor. Can't read his handwriting. Hello, Mr. Smith. How are you? If you could state your name and your address.
Yes, my name is Earl Smith, excuse my voice, 613 Hanson Avenue in Kenner, Old Kenner. And I want to say that I'm a proud Kennerite, 40 years, more than 40 years in Kenner. And first of all, most of the people have already spoken on the issues that I have to address. But there's one particular that troubling me is that, can you hear me?
Yes.
There's rumored that there's a 20-acre re-subdivision that's being done a few blocks from me, and I don't know what's going to go there. And I do know that green space is very important to the city of Kenner. And it seemed to me that 20 acres is being cleared. And we do have a flooding problem in South Kenner. And I want to know if there's been some kind of address, public hearing for the developer to tell us what's going there and how we're going to be affected as far as the wastewater removal. And basically, that's about the only thing that I have. There are some other issues that I could discuss, but due to the time and, and how I feel, I'm going to close, and I want to thank the council for giving me an opportunity to address.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Councilman Carroll?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Mr. Smith, thanks for coming. Mr. Smith, I just want to address some of your questions that you had about the 20-acre subdivision by Old Morgan where we used to play sports. I'm assuming you're talking about that. There was a public meeting. It was not a rezoning. It was a re-subdivision. And the people who live on Hanson and Fort Ward were notified because that is...
I live on Hanson.
Well, I mean, within certain amount of the area were not everybody all the way to Airline on Hanson wasn't, but the people within the 300 or 500 feet were notified, right, adjacent to it.
Okay. I know somebody was notified on Farrell Street.
Right. They were notified, and it wasn't a zoning, it was a re-subdivision. And as far as what can go there, myself and the city, no specific plans have been submitted to the planning or code. It will be guided by the zoning that is for that, and that will determine what is allowed, what is not allowed. The individual that owned it, he and I have met. There are a number of things he's looking into. Obviously, we spoke about the neighborhood and what buffers and what green space and things that will have to take place because, as we know, that property runs from the red apartments all the way and from Jefferson Highway all the way to the track. So it's a large spot, but we have not received anything officially to planning or zoning to determine what it can be. Only I can let you know what is zoned after the meeting or tomorrow, and then you can look at, see what can be there. But there have not been any zone applications to change.
Thank you for answering that. But it's not, I don't have a problem with doing what's is zoned for. I do have a problem with knowing what is going to be there and how or whether it will adversely affect me right there on Hampton Street.
Yeah, I understand perfectly as opposed it would affect everyone. I'm saying we have not been given any documentation as to what are the plans for the property owner. But when we do, you know, there's no doubt about it, we will let everybody know. He and I will be getting together again at the end of the year because he's looking at his options to see what he can do. When he is given a few, then we can maybe get more information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. And Mr. Richard Brown. Please state your name and address.
Thank you, Madam President. Richard Brown, Sessions Lane, Kenner. And first, I wanted to make a comment about something Al Morella brought up about the Saley Molina and the group, the Facebook group. We're from We Are Kennebra, helping this homeless couple. I played a very minor periphery role in that. It was actually Saley Molina and several others who really did all the work. And they really did a wonderful job. And we do appreciate the city making the apartment available. I've got some questions about the proposed changes to the garbage and recycling fee that was introduced at the last council meeting. And I think I can address one comment Mr. Teft made. On the water bill, it appears as the solid waste disposal fee. It doesn't use the word garbage. It uses the word solid waste. The two proposed ordinances that were filed at the last meeting or introduced at first reading, which were actually filed in blank with the council clerk. They didn't actually exist at the time they were filed, but they did exist by the time of the council meeting. They both propose to amend an old ordinance in the Kenner Code of Ordinances, which provides the fee that Kenner residents pay to the city for trash pickup, whether you call it garbage, solid waste, whatever, the fee that Kenner residents pay for garbage pickup, and a separate section provides a fee for recycling. Now, the contract, and those proposed ordinances do not propose to amend the contract with Ramelli. They don't touch the Ramelli contract. The Ramelli contract calls for the city of Kenner, I'm going to use round figures and leave off the cents, to pay $11 per month for garbage and $1 per month for recycling. That's what the city pays Ramelli per the terms of the contract. The contract also has a clause in it for escalation based on the consumer price index. The ordinance which is being amended originally called for Kenner residents to pay $3 per month to the city for garbage pickup and $1.50 per month for recycling, even though Ramelli is only charging us $1. However, if you look at your water bill, you're actually being charged $12 per month. I'm using round figures, $12 per month. And I don't know if that's just for garbage pickup or combined fee for garbage and recycling. And you're proposing to raise, the original ordinance called for $1.50 per month for recycling. You're proposing to increase that by $1, so Kenner residents will pay $2.50 per month for recycling, even though Ramelli is only charging $1. That's an extra $1.50 per month for the city. So my questions are...
Mr. Brown, your time is up.
Can I ask 4 questions quickly and then answer later?
Sure.
I don't have to wait here for the answer.
10 seconds.
Number one, how much do we pay Ramelli now with the cost of living increase that's built in? Number two, what makes up the current $12 that we pay on our water bills, and who determined that? And then also, this just came up, what is the garbage millage for that's on our tax bills? That's it. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Ms. Alessandro?
Could somebody answer those?
First, Council Chairman, first off, the answering of these questions or getting into any detail for this is not proper under the rules. However, I do need to correct a few things that Mr. Brown was saying that are just factually incorrect. The numbers he is citing are incorrect because they don't take into account the CPU adjustments that are made both to the Romelli contract and both to the individual pickups that are provided for, one to Romelli in the Romelli contract and two to the individual residents of Kenner by the ordinance. So what the ordinance is intending to do is to make it a whole lot more simpler, which is to pass directly through to the residents the actual cost to us. It'll actually be probably a year in arrears because we take 1 year and move it forward. But the numbers he's citing are incorrect just because they are the original numbers that were in the ordinance and don't take into account that both the ordinance and Romelli's contract provide for escalations based on CPU adjustments.
Thank you, Mr. Rapier. I believe, if you guys can talk after directly.
I did specifically say that both the contract and the ordinance provide for adjustments based on the consumer price index. And my third question was, how did we get to $12 from the original $3? Who determined that and how? But I do hope somebody will provide that information for us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Alessandro, you have 2 minutes. I mean, 3 minutes. We're dwindling.
Mr. Carroll, Councilman Carroll, could I ask you to pass these out to everybody, please, if you don't mind, sir? Thank you. One for everybody, please. Stacy Alessandro, 3309 Chateau Boulevard. The reason I'm here today is to discuss further the issue that I brought up at the last council meeting where I objected to the Romelli items being on the agenda for first reading. I objected because they were not posted on the city's website. It was, the citizens couldn't know what the ordinances were saying at that time. And City Attorney Ed Rapier admonished me and said, well, it's not breaking any rules, that it's legal, it's not breaking the charter, it's not violating the council rules. And the reason I just passed this out is I would like to say that it does break your council rules. Council Rule 11, which you all have a copy of, clearly states, the necessary copies of every proposed ordinance or resolution shall be furnished to the clerk of the council by 12 noon on the Monday before the date of a council meeting. The clerk of the council shall distribute to the following copies of the agenda to be considered at the council meeting: the mayor, each council member, chief of police, CAO, director of each department, and the city attorney. This is crystal clear. This is your council rule. And also, Council Rule 13 says the clerk of the council shall not accept any ordinance, resolution, or other item or topic for inclusion on the agenda after 12 noon on Wednesday before the day of the council meeting. So I don't understand what is the problem here. First reading, and I did say something erroneous and I corrected myself, it is not where you're voting on it, but it's where it's introduced to the public. And so if y'all are not going to follow these rules that are protecting the public's interest, I don't know why we have the rules. I mean, I would ask you guys to please consider not doing this anymore. I understand you guys got an email from a citizen on this topic, which was erroneous, because he was basing what he said to you guys, because all it had on it was a summary. He didn't see the text. And the last thing is, I'd like to point out 2 things. At that meeting, I had asked our council clerk twice, when was the entire ordinance filed? And each time I asked that question, somebody else interjected and the conversation got sidetracked, and then I asked it again, the same thing happened, and I was never able to get an answer to that very clear question. When was it filed? After it was read for first reading, when I was up here objecting to it, is when the city attorney got up and passed out copies to each one of you guys. I know for a fact that some of y'all had not seen that. Now, you may have discussed it, the concept before that. I know for a fact that some of you guys had not even laid eyes on that until it was handed to you. And I would guess it was most of you guys. So that's that. And my last thing is, I'm sure there will be rebuttals when I leave, and I would like to once again raise my objection to the fact this is the citizens' 3 minutes, and that we get to make our point, and we should be able to leave. If somebody's going to rebut what we say, which they do all the time, then give us a minute to come back and finish our point. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Thanks, Ms. Alessandro. Mr. Rapier?
I just want to correct Ms. Alessandro as to what is required by the charter. The charter says that for first reading, all proposed ordinances or resolutions or a summary thereof are to be read in and by submitting a typewritten copy of the completed ordinance to each resolution to each council member and the mayor. A summary was read in by the council clerk, and each one of you all were handed a typewritten copy of the proposed ordinances. It complied with the charter requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Rapier.
I'm not going to sit back and do this every time. I specifically said it violated the council rules. I'm not going to be made a fool of every time I come up here with a legitimate thing. He gets to say something which is wrong, and then I have to walk off. I said it did not violate the charter specifically, but it violates the council rules.
Thank you, Ms. Alessandro. Councilman Carroll?
Yes, I have two different subjects. One for Ms. Alessandra. I was not at the last council meeting, so this is new to me. But I would agree to you that whatever our council rules are, we should adhere to them. If it means having more details to it, we should have more details for it. And that is cut and dry and simple, I think. I don't think anyone would disagree with that. So I will definitely support having the information in the timely manner and when it should be submitted as the rules state. Simple. That's pretty simple. The second is I would like to speak with Ms. Soniak and Ms. Clay after the meeting so we can talk about some of the things that you guys mentioned, because I was not privy to any of that the email, that I never got it, but I like to get it so we can formulate it, so I can formulate it to be able to work, because a lot of it has been addressed, a lot of it is being addressed with the administration, but to be able to put it in a format where it can be addressed totally and given to you so we can keep up with it as we go forward. So Ms. Clay and Ms. Soniak, I'd like to meet with you after the meeting to give you my contact information. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Carroll. Seeing no one else, motion to adjourn.